In a world where financial giants battle for dominance, a seismic shift is about to occur. BlackRock, the behemoth of investment management, has just made a move that could reshape the entire cryptocurrency landscape. Is this the game changer we've all been waiting for? Are we about to witness Bitcoin's ultimate breakthrough into mainstream? Let's find out. So, jumping right into it, we just have kind of how it started versus how it's going. So, in 2017, BlackRock CEO called Bitcoin an index of money laundering. Currently, now he's saying that it could revolutionize finance, and he's even gone on national television and called Bitcoin digital gold. So, what exactly is a Bitcoin ETF, and why does everyone from BlackRock to Fidelity want one? Well, an ETF, or an exchange traded fund, is a publicly traded investment vehicle that tracks the value of its underlying asset, such as Bitcoin. So, shares in a Bitcoin ETF would be tradable on a traditional stock exchange. The SEC has repeatedly rejected proposals for Bitcoin ETFs in the US, but there's new optimism that the approval is coming. So I'm going to kind of go over why BlackRock and many other institutions want a Bitcoin ETF, and I'm going to give you my key takeaways on what I think could happen to Bitcoin and the Bitcoin market. So, with more mainstream popularity than ever, many new people are interested in acquiring Bitcoin, of course. But many of the crypto curious still view buying Bitcoin from crypto exchanges as intimidating or opaque process. I mean, buying from a decentralized exchange is extremely difficult. For example, if I told my parents to buy from a decentralized exchange, they would have a really tough time unless I kind of walked them through it or even did it for them. And on top of that, the technical aspects of holding Bitcoin, such as crypto wallets, addresses, and private keys, are confusing to newcomers and scare some investors away. So even in the last bull cycle, we saw a bunch of exchanges crash. People lost their crypto because they trusted exchanges and they didn't know how to use private keys and hardware wallets or software wallets. So people are still kind of scared of the market overall, especially the mainstream. So major financial institutions like BlackRock, Fidelity, and Invesco have applied with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commissions, the SEC, to launch ETFs. So I've already talked about what is an ETF. I have videos on that if you want to go back into my previous videos, but it's just a publicly traded, like a stock, that tracks the performance of an underlying asset or index rather than one company. So it would work very similar to any other ETF. So why is there a need for a Bitcoin ETF? Well, currently on the US stock exchange, these are the two most popular investment vehicles, which is BITO and then GBTC. This is a futures ETF, and GBTC is a Bitcoin trust. So all of these kind of have underperformed. This is a charts of the year-to-date performance against the Bitcoin benchmark, and you can see that there's been severe underperformance compared to Bitcoin alone. This is since 2020, and then this is more year to date. You can see that they don't perform as well as Bitcoin, and this is for a number of various reasons, including fees, and that they don't actually own the Bitcoin. And that's why the spot ETFs was what it's called, which BlackRock is filed for, is they will actually be purchasing the Bitcoin, and it will be a direct investment vehicle. So holding Bitcoin places a burden of security squarely on you. Like I talked about earlier, it makes you responsible for keeping your own private keys safe, unless you want to entrust them on exchange, which I wouldn't really recommend that either. This may mean buying a hardware wallet to protect your purchased Bitcoin or storing private keys in a secure manner. You also have to work out how to file taxes for sales of Bitcoin that resulted in capital gains. So with a Bitcoin ETF, investors don't need to worry about any of this. They own their own shares in the ETF just like shares of a stock, and they can gain exposure to the cryptocurrency markets without having to go through the hoops of purchasing and holding the crypto. So, and to put it plainly, that is extremely appealing proposition for many regular folks like retail, as well as very sophisticated institutional investors, right? This is going to be huge for retail, and it's also going to be huge for institutional investors. It's going to be huge for mom and pop investment firms. It's really just going to be huge overall and give Bitcoin a lot more exposure. So Bitcoin ETF is managed by a firm that buys and holds the actual Bitcoin, and the price would be pegged to Bitcoin held in the fund, rather than like the futures ETF or the GBTC trust currently. Obviously, there would be no dividend because that's not how it works with Bitcoin. It's decentralized. You would have to pay fees to the company offering the ETF, just like any other ETF. But with a Bitcoin ETF, some portion of your fees would go into paying their custody and management fees for the purchasing and storage of Bitcoin that underlies the ETF. So I think this is just huge because, sure, you're going to have to pay fees, but even with S&P 500, you had to pay fees. And some of these fees are going to go towards that custody and management. And the person who purchases this ETF is not going to have to worry, oh, am I going to lose my keys? Am I going to, lose all my coins through, negligence of an exchange, them taking too many risks, like rehab application? You really won't have to worry about that at all. So there's a big brief history of Bitcoin ETF progress. You can see, in 2013, the Winklevoss Bitcoin Trust files for the Bitcoin ETF proposal, but they rejected by their second ETF proposal in 2018. Then in 2019, they rejected the Bitwise ETF. Basically, just to sum this all up, it's a bunch of companies filing. They're all getting rejected, besides Canada having their first Bitcoin ETF launching. Obviously, that's not on the New York Stock Exchange. So this would just be huge if we could actually get a Bitcoin ETF. This is the Bitcoin Futures ETF, and then more recently, they have this 2x Bitcoin Strategy ETF, but none of these are spot ETFs, meaning they're not actually holding the Bitcoin itself. So what's so special about it, to kind of sum it up in this article, and then I'm going to go into my key takeaways and tell you what I think might happen or could happen to the Bitcoin market. So the Bitcoin ETF is expected to bring a new level of mainstream trustworthiness and acceptance to Bitcoin investing. I think that's huge. In 2020 and 2021, big publicly traded companies, including Square and Tesla, bought Bitcoin as an investment for their balance sheets, which spurred new adoption. I remember that was huge back when it happened. And you can throw MicroStrategy in there as well. But it's still really seen by many conservative investors as a risky bet or even a gimmick. There's still a lot of haters, a lot of doubters on cryptocurrency, so this would really bring mainstream adoption. It would functionally bring Bitcoin to Wall Street, with the Bitcoin ETF traded through the same places as Tesla stock, bonds, gold, oil, or any other traditional assets. You could just hop onto your brokerage like Fidelity, like Charles Schwab, and just buy Bitcoin directly through an ETF. And it would likely be a huge boost to the price of Bitcoin. And we will see when that comes, if it actually does get approved. But let's talk about my key takeaways. What is the bottom line here? I think these are kind of the three main events that will happen, I guess you could say. Is right now we're in the anticipation phase of the ETF. Bitcoin has gone up a lot since this announcement, while the stock market has kind of gone sideways. So that we've seen less correlation there, and we've seen a big boost to the price already. The announcement of the ETF, if it gets approved, of course, would of course be another huge event, because a lot of people still have doubts whether it's going to get approved, but if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be BlackRock. So that could be another big boost. Then, obviously, after that, we could have big inflows into the ETF, and we're also going to see more institutional demand. And really key point is would be a huge thing for the mainstream acceptance of Bitcoin. Your average Joe could buy Bitcoin and not have to worry about the custody. So in my opinion, this could be a buy the rumor, sell the news type event. Maybe we already saw this big run up in the price, and when it actually comes out, maybe there won't be a big effect on the price. No one really knows, but it's just something to keep in mind. Another thing to keep in mind is that Bitcoin has been less correlated from traditional markets recently, and it's up significantly since BlackRock's announcement. So we're showing that Bitcoin might be finally becoming slightly less correlated from traditional markets. Typically, it's really correlated to the NASDAQ or QQQ, the ETF. So it's correlated to tech stocks typically, because people see it as a risk-on asset. But hopefully one day Bitcoin will become a completely uncorrelated asset, and maybe this is what we needed to kind of shoot it into that domain of being uncorrelated. Thank you guys for watching. If you could like, comment, and subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thanks.